I'm Chef Andrew, and we have a saying at Mezzetta that when people share their food, they share a part of who they are, but that doesn't apply to just people. I love going to different cities around the United States and eating my way through them because when you travel around a city and eat the food that it has to offer, the city in turn shares itself with you. And as a chef, nothing can be more inspiring. On today's episode, I'm traveling to Seattle, Washington to gather inspiration to come back to the Mezzetta kitchen and create a recipe inspired by my trip. Seattle has some of the best food and the best seafood the country has to offer, and boy, did I get my fill. From oysters to salmon to an incredible sushi dinner, I was able to enjoy everything the city had to offer one bite at a time. So it's time to get in the kitchen to show you an amazing recipe inspired by this trip, so come along with me on my journey to share my food with all of you. All right, I just got back from an amazing trip to Seattle, Washington. I'd never been there before, so I used this opportunity to go around the city and eat some of the best food that the city had to offer. I was talking to our bartender, Matthew, and I said, hey, what is the best place to go to get the best seafood, the best cocktail, the best oysters, etc.? And he gave me a list of about 50 restaurants. I managed to hit a few of the places on his list, and every place that I went to was incredible. So I wanted to come back here to the Mezzetta kitchen to make a recipe that was inspired by all these amazing places that I ate. So we're gonna be making a seafood stew, or a cioppino for those of you who live in the Bay Area. And I thought it was perfect because I live in the Bay Area, so why not marry the city that I live in and the city that I travel to all in one pot? So let's get into it. Really simple. I got our base going with some yellow onions, some celery, some garlic. This is gonna be the base of our stew. We're gonna let this cook down until it's nice and translucent. You don't have to be fancy with the vegetables. You know, this is a rustic stew. So it's always nice to have that little bit of chunky celery and that bit of onion, and who doesn't love amazing garlic flavor, right? Hit it with some salt. You wanna season every step of the way. That's always like rule number one in my book. Season every step of the way. You want as much flavor in here as possible. So traditionally what I like to add to my cioppino is bell pepper. Green bell pepper, red bell pepper, whatever color red bell pepper you like. But I'm gonna use Mezzetta roasted red bell pepper strips. These are perfect because they add that extra roasted depth of flavor. Talk about quality, right? At Mezzetta, we harvest our bell peppers. They're at our facility, roasted and in a jar within 24 hours. Truly amazing flavor. You can use them for soups, you can use them for stews, you can use them for stir fries, you can use them on sandwiches. The possibilities are endless. Any recipe that calls for bell peppers, you can easily sub roasted red bell peppers just to add that little extra roasted depth of flavor, which is always amazing. And it's gonna really, really bring this dish to life. In with the peppers. These don't need a lot of time to cook, so we're just gonna add them a bit at the end. Vegetables are nice and cooked down. Deglaze the pot with some white wine. Any dry white wine will do. Pinot Grigio, I'm using Chardonnay. You could use about a half a cup, but you know, why not a little bit more? All of those sugars that came out of the onion as they cook down are gonna be stuck at the bottom of the pan, so the wine is just gonna bring all of that up and add that amazing flavor. So just smelling this right now is reminding me of one of the dishes that I had at an amazing restaurant that Matthew recommended. Oh, it was clams and mussels in this white wine broth with celery and bell peppers. I'm actually getting a flashback right now smelling this. It's amazing the things that food can do, right? It can bring you back to those amazing moments where you had this amazing meal. All right, I think we need to add our seafood. So the thing that really makes this a Northwestern style seafood stew cioppino is salmon. I went to the Pike Place Market. If you've never been to the Pike Place Market, you have to go and watch them toss the salmon from the one side of the market to the fishmonger. You can actually buy it there and bring it home. I had a bit of a long trip ahead of me, so I didn't buy it there, but I did manage to find some amazing Northwestern salmon here in the Bay Area. So this is gonna be our fish element that you would normally have in a cioppino, traditionally cod, rockfish, any sort of flaky white fish, but I figured what a better way to marry that than add some salmon to this. The wine is reduced down. You want it to reduce until there's no liquid left in the pan. You really just want the flavor there. So now, a tomato base. We're gonna use our family recipe spicy marinara sauce. This is a truly amazing sauce because it's the best ingredients that you can find in Italy and in California. All in here, it's got a nice kick to it. All these recipes come out of the Mezzetta family kitchen, and we really take our time to craft an amazing sauce for you to use at home. Obviously, use it on pasta, but one of my favorite things to do with these sauces is actually use them as a soup base. And cioppino, which is the inspiration for this recipe, is traditionally a tomato-based stew. Cioppino started in San Francisco, and it was a way for fishermen to use up all the catches of the day and get a nice, hearty, warm meal out of it. So it's rooted in Italian-American heritage, and now this one is inspired by the Pacific Northwest. So the Mezzetta spicy marinara sauce, that's the tomato base in this stew. There's something about this warm, comforting bowl of spicy tomatoes and bell peppers and fish and seafood. I just gotta make this thing. I gotta stop talking about it. I'm salivating over here. Now we wanna go with the thing that needs the most time to cook, and that's our salmon. So our cubed up salmon is going right into the pot. Let's give this some time to cook so it gets nice and flaky. You wanna season as you go. Okay, salmon's in. Now this is just you're just gonna start throwing stuff in. So shrimp. These are medium to large shrimp. You could go with smaller. Another thing you could add to this would be scallops. Scallops would be truly amazing. We had a lot of oysters when I was up there, but I didn't think oysters kind of went well in the stew. So what you could do is serve some amazing raw oysters on the side. Who doesn't love that? So this is gonna cook for about 4 or 5 minutes. Just gonna let it simmer. Before we add in our mussels and clams, that's what we're gonna do at the last minute. Let's add a little extra flavor and throw in 2 sprigs of oregano. You could use thyme, you could use basil. We had basil in the spicy sauce, so I feel like oregano is gonna add that extra kind of earthy element to this. So as you can see, this is nice and thick, right? But we want it to be more of a brothy stew, so we're gonna add some clam juice. Clam juice is really gonna take this to the next level. Seafood on seafood on seafood. If you don't wanna use clam juice, go for a vegetable stock. So you see the salmon here? This is what you're looking for. It's pink, but it's not fully cooked all the way through, and that is gonna tell you the perfect time to add in your shellfish. One rule of thumb, make sure that you scrub these clams clean. They can have little bits of dirt and grit in them, and you do not want that in the stew. You know, we have this saying at Mezzetta that when people share their food, they share a part of who they are. But when a city shares their food with you, you really get a sense of who the people are. And I was only in Seattle for about 2 days. I'd never been there before, and everybody I met, every server, every bartender, every person that I ran into on the street was so kind and generous and helpful. So I hope that this dish represents the warmth that they showed me. I just want to say thank you for the inspiration and for the amazing time. Wow. The smell, I mean, smell-o-vision hasn't been invented yet, but it needs to be something because the smell that's coming out of this is incredible. Okay, so one thing to note, the clams and mussels are starting to open up, but they're not fully open yet. So after you add them into the pot, you're gonna cook them for an additional 4 to 5 minutes, but sometimes you might need 6 or 7. Let's go ahead and taste this stew. The shellfish is starting to open up, so we're ready to go. The salmon is nice and flaky. Let's just test the broth. Wow. That clam juice that I added in there really took this to the next level. But also that spicy marinara gives it a beautiful kick. Okay, it does need a little bit more salt. So just a pinch. And then we're gonna brighten this up with a little bit of fresh parsley. Italian flat leaf parsley is always the way to go. You don't need too much. It's gonna give it a really fresh pop of flavor without overpowering the seafood in the dish. You could use rosemary, you could use thyme, you could use basil, but those are really aggressive herbs. Parsley is nice and neutral, so it's the perfect addition. In goes the parsley. Give it a nice stir. Remember those sprigs of oregano we put in here? Make sure you take those out. It could be a nice surprise for one of your guests. I'm big on balance, especially when cooking. We have the spiciness from that marinara, the brininess from all of the seafood, and now let's brighten the whole thing up with a little bit of lemon juice. Use your hand to catch any seeds. It's always a good day when you don't get any seeds, and you know what? Today's gonna be a good day. I mean, talk about an impressive dish that seems complicated, but we really from start to finish made this in about 30 minutes. You know, stew is something that would take hours to make. You want to build that flavor, but thanks to the marinara, the roasted red bell peppers, we really cut that time in half because you don't want to overcook all this amazing delicate seafood. And also when you're serving this, make sure you get every little bit. Shrimp, clams, mussels, some of that amazing salmon, and then of course the broth and the chunky vegetables. You can't go wrong. Look at how beautiful that is. I'm so excited to eat this. I'm so happy with what came out of this trip, this inspiration to make this amazing soup. Last thing you need to do, some charred bread. You gotta sop up all that amazing broth, right? Let's give it a taste. I'll make sure I get some of that salmon, some of that roasted red bell pepper. Bon appetit. This all works so well together. That spicy marinara with the flaky salmon, the shellfish, the shrimp, that little bit of lemon and parsley at the end. I gotta say, I could take a bath in this broth. It is so flavorful. So thank you, Seattle, for inspiring me to make this recipe. Thank you for sharing your food with me. I cannot wait to come back. If you want to see more videos like this where we travel to amazing cities and meet the people who make the food that bring them to life, like and subscribe down below. Also follow us on social media at Mezzetta, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, mezzetta.com for more recipes and inspiration. Until next time, bon appetit.